Join Edwin Frondozo on the Business Leadership Podcast every week for a unique program featuring insights and actionable items from the world's most successful business leaders. Hear firsthand the exclusive interviews and personal journeys on how today's transformational leaders made it to the top.
So self-awareness and being humble in every step of your career or your business. I think being humble is one of the key things. It's always better to maybe underestimate yourself a little bit than to overestimate, in my opinion. Again, that's what helped me.
This is the Business Leadership Podcast, and I'm your host, Edwin Frondozo. Welcome. How are you doing? How's your day going? Thank you for taking the time to join me today. This is episode number 90, and my guest today is Alexander Lvovich, the Managing Director of Volvo Cars Canada. Alexander assumed this leadership position as the head of the Volvo Cars sales, marketing, and service business in Canada in 2016 after 20 years of automotive experience, including finance, sales and marketing, and manufacturing in Canada, United States, and Eastern Europe. In our conversation, we discuss why Volvo is still the leading European car brand in the world. With the automotive industry so competitive, we talk about how Volvo stayed innovative and ahead of all the other brands. Alexander talked about the 3 difficult things that he learned that helped him grow as a strong business leader he is today. He actually shared some experiences and some bad decisions that affected business operations. Our sponsors today are Pungo, a payment solution that helps remove business friction by making payments fast, connected, and easy to use. The Business Leadership Podcast is a friend of the ITWC Podcast Network and supported by our media partner, IT World Canada. Now here we go. Welcome to the Business Leadership Podcast, Alex.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for taking your time out of your busy day. I know just us scheduling this, and before we went on record, I know just borrowing your time is very difficult. So I really appreciate your time to join us. But I'd like to start off by introducing yourself to our listeners today, people who may be learning about you for the first time. Let us know who's Alex, and what do you like to do when you're not growing or leading businesses?
No, for sure. Well, obviously professional life, I'm the managing director for Volvo Canada. So for Volvo Cars distribution company in our great country. And I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk about it a little bit more. In a personal life, happy husband, father. I have a 10-year-old son. So, fairly active person in terms of sports. We actually talked a little bit about running, did a few half marathons. I love playing all types of games. Tennis, basketball are my favorites. And, staying active, traveling, obviously as much as my schedule permits. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
I mean, one thing you just mentioned, and I know my listeners out there know that I'm from Toronto, huge basketball fan. Like, how are you loving the Toronto Raptors this year?
Well, listen, it's unbelievable. And, my son is a huge fan. And of course, as we're young kids, they're all big Warriors fans these days.
Of course.
And of course, he's a Raptors fan. So the last game that we witnessed, a great victory, which we're all hoping for the finals, right? My little one was wearing 2 jerseys. There was Golden State underneath and the Raptors on top. And the story was, he was planning to watch the first half in the Raptors jersey, then take it off and watch the second half in the Golden State. And he actually, for some reason, wanted Golden State to win because he said Raptors are killing it. There's no need for them to win. They'll still win the conference, and for Golden State needs some help. And of course, he fell asleep after the first half, and then I just told him in the morning that our team won. So that was a funny story for me about the Raptors.
He's a smart little man.
Yeah, for sure.
He knows how to hedge his bets already.
Exactly.
But Alex, let's start off. I know you mentioned that that you're managing director of Volvo Canada. Let us know about what your current role is and your responsibilities are, and perhaps what you're trying to accomplish over the next 6 to 12 months.
Well, we're a small company. We're a small group of people representing a fairly large business and very big brand, at least obviously in our opinion. I think if you ask people randomly on the street, everybody knows what Volvo is and Volvo stands for. But in Canada, we're a group of roughly about 40 people. And again, I have a privilege and really having a lot of fun leading this group. It's a national sales company. We have 37 retailers across the country, pretty much coast to coast. We bring the best and the latest in Volvo products, beautiful new cars, our all new lineup that we're tremendously proud of. To Canadian customers through our retailers, working with the retailers, finding new ways to have people experience our company, our products, and our services. As far as the next 6 to 12 months, we've grown tremendously. This last 2.5 years I've been here, we doubled our sales volumes, which looking back, seemed impossible. But again, on the back of a great product turnaround and great team here, we've grown our team. So, we're completing our portfolio from a product standpoint. We're launching sort of the remaining of the newest cars, in the next few months, the new S60, the new V60 cross country. And, now the product is full. The lineup is there. So we need to grow from here now through finding new ways, whether it's, launching our, new and first actually ever in Canada, I'll say it proudly, subscription service, which is launched about a month ago, Care by Volvo, working with our retailers, with our dealers across the country, making sure that our customers get the experience that, is, consistent with the luxury brand we hope and we think we are. And of course, making sure people know and get to know this new Volvo. Because, one thing we're finding is, it's difficult to elevate the brand, especially when you experienced maybe some times that weren't that glamorous a few years ago. And now, the product's there, on par, better than competition, we believe. And there's still quite a few people that don't know the new face of Volvo. They don't know about innovations in various areas. And that's really our job. Our job over the next 12 months, hopefully, to bring ourselves in front of as many Canadian customers as possible.
No, that's super interesting, and I definitely appreciate the luxury brands. I do own a European luxury brand. Not going to name whether it's Volvo or not. We'll keep
it's
the
okay.
listeners.
You'll give us a chance in the future.
Definitely. I'm learning about it, but Volvo is a luxury brand, and I've known it ever since I was young. I always looked at them, and they always had something special. So how do you, as the leader within this sales organization, how do you ensure that Volvo continues to stay competitive within this category in Canada? I mean, even with the newer entries into the market, right?
Well, I think what we're trying to do is, our product is as strong as it's ever been. We got the two trucks of the year, SUV of the year awards in the last 3 years. I don't think there's any company in the history, and let alone European company, that got those, prestigious awards in the last 2 years, from Detroit. But, I think what we're trying to do is as probably everybody else, to differentiate ourselves. And if you look at it, we always stay true to our core, which is safety. We have always been and will always be the safest car brand.
It's always the safest car you hear about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now safety is translated through this really cool and sexy technology, with pedestrian detection and braking assist, and our car now can detect cyclists and large animals, and keep yourself in the lane with our semi-autonomous driving. So this technology, all of a sudden, from just being nuts and bolts, all of a sudden it's cool. So we're
because it wasn't cool before.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's, part of it. The new designs, these beautiful Scandinavian lines, again, we're trying to separate ourselves and make it fresh and young, as well from a design standpoint. And of course, environmentally, right? That's one of the challenges that we're trying to tackle as a company. And, we made this big statement last year that starting from 2019, all the cars we're going to launch will be electrified, whether it's fully electric or plug-in hybrids or mild electric. And again, it was a bold statement, by our organization globally. It's going to happen, obviously. And I think, so these three things, taking care of the environment with electrification, taking care of the technology and safety, and, these beautiful designs, that's what energizes ourselves, our new organization. We've grown, probably in half in the last couple of years. We have a lot of new talent, new people joining us in the last couple of years. And I can see, through the daily interactions with the team, like how excited everybody is to be part of this huge evolution that, if you look at the history of big brands, and Volvo, is a 90-year-old brand, it doesn't happen very often. So you feel like you're part of something very significant, part of this brand growth that happens probably, a few times in a lifetime of a company.
No, it's super interesting. And you brought up a lot of things in terms of, technologies that are new out there, consumers that understand it. The buzzwords that you said, like electrical cars, self-driving, self-autonomous. 5-10 years ago, even in the auto industry, that was buzzwords, right? They were really buzzwords, and
nobody took it seriously. Yes.
No one took it seriously. No one thought. So I guess for you and for the brand, and it's super competitive, the auto industry. I can't even imagine it. Everyone knows most of the cars out there, and everything is moving towards autonomous. Everything is moving towards electrical cars. So how is Volvo? How is your team? How are you ensuring to stay ahead, to stay innovative? Are there different things that you're doing within your team, or is it all just coming from head office strategy?
Well, it's good that you split the question probably into those two. I'll start with the head office. Again, it's not us, but I'll talk about what do we do here locally. From the head office, I have to take my hat off to the engineers and designers in Sweden. Start with engineers because you go back almost 10 years now, 2009, when we made the statement that we're going to eliminate all the V6 and V8 engines, and all our powertrains are going to be 4-cylinder, turbo and supercharged powertrains. Back then, 9 years ago, it'll be 10 years in 2019. That was incredible. Like, people were looking at us like we had two heads. Like, what are you guys doing? Nobody's going to ever buy a vehicle, let alone a luxury car, with a 4-cylinder engine.
Right.
And fast forward 10 years, everybody, including luxuries, are equipping their vehicles with 4-cylinder engines, state-of-the-art technology, et cetera, et cetera. But it was a bold statement. So they made it happen. Of course, with the safety technology, with subscription ideas, these guys in the center, that they came up with a lot of, those, first thought starters that translated then into this new technology. On our level, if you bring it back to Canada, we're one of the few markets that launched Care by Volvo. So we looked at it. We said, okay, great idea. It's about time. Mobility, as you said, is it's a thing, but there isn't really anybody who introduced subscription yet to Canada. I'm talking about the major OEMs. Mm-hmm. So we looked at the global program. We looked at Canada. We looked at what this offer should include. So, and we decided, okay, it should be convenient. It should be online. It should be a few clicks and you can order the car. Oh, by the way, it's Canada, so it's cold. It's winter. There's snow. Winter tires are a thing. So we decided to, for example, include a set of winter tires. So there's, those small ways, you can call it innovate. You can call it adjust our, central ideas to this market. So, that's one thing. Secondly, because we're the small organization, we do, talk and interact with our customers and our retailers directly. I hope, and that's what we're trying to do in a better way, because we're small. There's no hierarchy. There's no 10 levels of management, between, our customers or dealers and then all the way to me. So, that's another way how we're trying to be nimble, we're trying to be fast, and that will allow us to react to, the changes in the marketplace, any kind of competitive actions. And that's, I would call it more of a, management, know-how that we're very, very accessible, approachable, and, all the way, from me at the top of the company again, and we're a very flat organization. Mm-hmm. Down to, we just launched a new program earlier this year. We hired interns from McMaster University, 12 months interns. And that's what I told the guys. First of all, I went to the site to interview the guys in person.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure I probably was, and I have probably been the only executive, like, the leader of the company who came in personally to talk to the potential students. And then I told them, and I said, guys, you will be at the table with me. You will have a chance to challenge the rest of the organization and me and take part in the decision making. And fast forward, they started in May, and we just put together a nice video we put on LinkedIn where we let them speak. What was your experience? And so we gave a chance to this very young, very ambitious, very talented a group of people to really make an impact. So again, trying to bring the best ideas and of course make them happen.
That's amazing, and I think that's also probably the benefit of being a smaller team with a global brand.
100%.
You're
yes.
able to also lead in terms of, I guess, colleagues around the world, depending on their market size and their team size as well. Super fascinating. Really appreciate that. I want to change the gears a little. I love saying gears while I'm talking to a car person, but more towards, who you are as a business leader and how you've grown, to get the roles where you've gone to, into leading a national organization. So I'd love it if you could share any key difficult decisions that you had to make along the way. It could be past, it could be very recent, that really, you had to make. Maybe you lost sleep. Maybe it was like, it could be anything, but it eventually allowed you to grow after you did it.
Well, I think, several things I'd say. My background, and I didn't, mention it in the beginning, most 2/3 of my career, probably 3/4 of my career, I was in finance. I was a CFO of Volvo Canada. I was a controller of our business in the States. So, before coming back to lead this organization. So, you need a certain mindset, not just good with numbers, but, really understanding how the numbers represent the business. And it's really one of the best ways of understanding your business is through, understanding your performance and your financial performance. So, I really wanted to, well, I guess I'll take a step back. First of all, through every step of my career, whether I was in finance supporting manufacturing sites, back overseas in Eastern Europe, where I'm from, or in Canada, or running and working with a sales and marketing organization, I never looked at myself as a finance leader. So I guess advice to, our finance listeners is that, you always have to think about driving the business and not just the numbers. So I always worked very, very closely, part of the team, and not just part of the team, but driving the decisions together. So when this opportunity came up, and I obviously really, really wanted it and pushed for it, I realized that, well, there's a big difference between a pilot of the business and the pilot. Because all of a sudden the responsibility is on your shoulders, and then you have to make decisions. And I guess, so to answer your question, what are the difficult things that I learned? What helped me grow? Well, first of all, one thing I had to really quickly learn is, timing of decision making is critical, and sometimes faster decision is better than the right decision, because not making a decision is the worst possible option. So that I had to learn pretty quickly. Another, I think, lesson I learned when I started, because we had some challenges, to be honest with you, with the organization when I came here, and I learned to be patient. Because you can't fix everything overnight. And if you start stressing about every single detail, every single step, you're just going to stress yourself to, complete, inefficiency, and like you're going to stall. So I taught myself to prioritize and to, solve some bigger issues first. And of course, then be patient that we'll get, to maybe some smaller tasks. And of course, another big thing, with me, I think it was probably the biggest experience in my career, where we had to restructure and we did have to say goodbye to some people. And one thing I keep telling my direct reports or, my business partners is it's never easy. At the end of the day, you have a person in front of you that you decided that, it's not a good fit. And as much as non-performance and, relationship issues you've had in the past, at the end of the day, it's very difficult to be that strong business leader, and you do see that person in front of you. So, but then of course, the only way out is you look back and you look at those 40 people behind you that now depend on the business. So you have to make those difficult decisions. And I had to make quite a few in the beginning. But after you do that, you feel good. You feel good for the people that are, on this journey, that they see that, if we had certain gaps that they're addressed, and they see that we are making decisions that need to be made, and then they have this renewed faith in you, as a leader of the company, and then they don't just follow, but they want to take it to the next level.
Hey there, if you're enjoying this conversation and have any questions, comments, or feedback, I'd love to hear from you. So please join me on my free private Facebook group where I share daily insights, answer daily questions, and connect you to other like-minded business leaders. Go to thebusinessleadership.com/FB group or search for the Business Leadership Group directly in Facebook. Now let's get back to it. You shared a couple of things, and I really appreciate that. And two of them, and they could be related. I wanted you to, talk a bit more about making decisions fast, even though they might be bad. And to me, when I hear things about, I had to fire my friend, sometimes, and I've heard stories, where they didn't do it fast. They took their time because they hoped it would do that. I'd love to get, certain situations when you actually had to either make the decision fast, or was there a key situation where you just didn't make a decision and it really affected things?
Good question. Going back, some of the program changes, for example, we took some time to finalize our facility program with our retailers. And, I wish we made it a little bit more streamlined in the beginning, would have given, people a little more time. But, again, in the end, it worked out, but we should have moved a little bit faster. With those decisions. I can tell you in the beginning, when I started, I learned really fast that product is key. So securing that production capacity from the global organization is extremely important, and you cannot waste any time. And then you have this long lead time. And, if you think about our process, right, the cars are built, they're built in Europe. They're built now in America, but, there's good 4 or 6 months between the point in time where you put the order and then the car actually lands here. So you have to have faith in yourself and the organization to know that you will deliver, and then the demand's going to be there. Your marketing efforts will pay off, and the dealers will do their job, and the customers will be happy. And then you cannot procrastinate and wait till you see the results, and maybe then improve and increase your request for capacity. And I can tell you the first year, when I got here, 2016, I obviously wanted to see the efforts, and I was a little bit maybe more conservative. Mm-hmm. So we may have not asked for, additional volume because I thought, well, I need to prove myself. We need to get it going, and then we're going to get extra production.
You didn't want to make a mistake, it sounds
Exactly.
like. Yeah.
Exactly. You're afraid to make a mistake. But then, fast forward 6 months later, we were sold out of cars, and inventory is low. And we're like, well, we now are, the hostage to our own success, because we've warmed up this whole engine, so much, so well. We're super proud, but guess what? There are no cars to sell.
You did an amazing job.
Exactly. So I think we learned that lesson. So we used that confidence in this last 2 years following, and we're using it today. And that's what I keep telling my team, that we cannot plan for failure. We have to plan for success. And of course we have to adjust along the way, but we have to plan for success. And I think that's, that's the key.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that story. And when I talk to many business leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, they always have someone they speak to. So I'm wondering, and I'm really curious, Alex, if you could name a person who had a tremendous impact on you as a leader. It could be a mentor. It could be someone alive, someone you don't even know, someone dead. Who helped you along the way?
Well, I was blessed, honestly, with many good business leaders or leaders in life, if you will. And I think that I'll just maybe use a few, examples. My several managers along the way, both back in Eastern Europe with Ford Motor Company, when I joined. Every step of the way you look up to your manager and, somebody to learn. I had a great boss, our CFO for Americas, Ulla Scholander, who, Swedish gentleman, we're a Swedish company, obviously as a nation, as the management material, if you will, these people represent certain traits.
Yeah.
There's certain stereotypes, right? But Lula came in extremely, strategic and conceptual. And it was, very interesting how he really instilled the sense of responsibility for your own results. Like he pretty much said, if you believe in something, you have to fight for it. But then you also need to remember that, the end result is your responsibility. Like, yeah, there are circumstances, there are other factors, but at the end of the day is yours. And that's what you need to focus on. You can't focus on, excuses. You have to focus on what you control and just then maximize. So, great influence on me, still there, we're still in, great relationships, have a great relationship. The second person, honestly, I'll tell you, is my wife. And I'm talking business influence. My wife is, in human resources. She works for Honeywell. She runs their global talent acquisition, actually. And having that HR professional, by my side, and first of all, learning from her, in any area of, managing people, new technologies, new management approaches. It's really helpful, and I think she was a great, she was an inspiration for me, my pride, obviously, but then, day to day, good mentor from a business standpoint.
An advisor too.
Yeah,
right?
An advisor too, 100%. It was really good to have that business person in your family, that, can support you. And you can actually, honestly, I'm looking up to her in many ways.
That's amazing. Fun question, Alex. If I were to ask any of your team members, past, present, colleagues, peers, what's the best leadership quality that Alex has? What do you think they would say?
I would probably say, without being too humble, is, driving results, because I'm very, very results oriented. It's funny because I think you ask the question, what do they think? I may not think that same way about me, okay? Because I think that, of course, I want to get results. I want to get the right way. I want to analyze, all the factors. But I heard a number of times that it's all, driving to getting things done. That's probably, that's one thing they would say about me.
That's great. I mean, that's a good trait, and that's something that definitely great, successful leaders have as one of the traits as well. But Alex, what else is going on? Do you have any special projects, any initiatives, anything fun that you are super excited about, maybe losing sleep about, personal or within business, that you'd like to share with us today?
Well, I think the launch of Care by Volvo was a big project for us. Just made it happen about a month and a half ago. First ever subscription in Canada, first for us. We did lose some sleep over it, because, it's that interesting model, where, while it's mobility, it's subscription, there's this whole perception that, and fear from the dealer body that we're trying to bypass them, while, in our setup and in our model, they are a huge part of success in that story. So yes, you can order a vehicle online. You can subscribe to it online. You can, pick and choose what you want. And yes, you don't have to negotiate the price, but at the end of the day, once the vehicle arrives, you go to the dealership. It's easy, much easier. And, they're a big part of the process. So I think that stressful component was making sure the dealers understand that we're not trying to replace them. We're just trying to make the experience easier and more seamless and digital and convenient for the customers. It was obviously putting all the pieces together to how to run the program, including, all the maintenance and concierge service and winter tires and you name it. And of course, launching the product. And we're still, trying to make sure that people are aware, our customers are aware that it exists. We're the first company out there to launch it, and make it successful. So I think that's the current project that, was stressful, is stressful. I think the second, point and the second answer I'll make is, we have a great brand. We have unbelievable products, and I keep telling people that, in my career, there were different times where, you sell the product, you like it, you're not sure 100% that it's the best in the market. You find the pros, you find the cons. And right now, I'm the luckiest guy, call me in business, because I am so unbelievably proud of what, we offer that, you don't have to sell. You just need to tell people personal experiences and, and retell stories from our customers. And, so it's easy on the one hand. On the other hand, the lineup is complete and we want to grow from here. So we can't grow by launching another car, another truck. We will, obviously, over time, but right now we need to grow with what we have, with the full portfolio. So, and that's an enormous challenge because everybody's out there, right? And, Canadian economy, there are different expectations right now. The car business was dropping the last, 8-9 months now. Last month was a little weak for everybody. And yeah, we're the most growing brand in Canada this year. The highest growing and the fastest growing, but, there'll be next year. We want to grow again. So yeah, figuring out the way, how do you do things differently from the competition, whether it's marketing, whether it's experiential marketing, whether it's social marketing. And that's what keeps me up.
Well, that's super exciting. I'm really excited for you. I wish you luck with that. And if there's anything obviously we could do with the audience, with our platform, let us know. But we're happy to share a lot of these programs and even those videos of your interns as well on our podcast. But before we end, Alex, if you could just leave us with your final thoughts, any observations, ideally what I like to share is actionable recommendations that you could share with the listeners listening today, whether they're starting their career or later in it.
Great request. I'll just share with everybody my personal philosophy and what made, hopefully, me, relatively successful, depending how you look at it. But remember, I grew up in Soviet Union. I'm from Eastern Europe. I speak with heavy accent, which I'm very aware of. So, I'm a leader of a big company with a big brand. So what allowed me to get where I am, immigrating to Canada, I'm very proud of it, that I'm part of this growing community. But looking back, a couple of things, being self-aware of your pros, of your cons. And by the way, your weaknesses and your strength, they will continue to change and develop in your life. So you have to look back, seek, advice and seek input from your friends, from your family, from your colleagues to understand, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. So self-awareness and being humble in, every step of your career or your business. I think being humble is, one of the key things. It's always better to maybe underestimate yourself a little bit than to overestimate, in my opinion. Again, that's what helped me. Then, when I moved to Canada, I got the best advice from one of my coworkers, when I worked for Ford Motor Company. I asked him, so what do I need to do to be successful? He's like, hey, do your job, do it well, go over and above when you can, show that you care. And by the way, the rest of the process will take care of itself. And I was lucky that Ford Motor Company had this, structure and had this environment. Again, forever grateful to these guys. But that's what worked. And then when I came to Volvo, now 10 years ago, it was the same approach. You have, your area, you want to be humble, self-aware, and just do the best you can without really comparing and to everybody else, without looking for excuses why I didn't get that promotion and somebody else did. Just do what you want to do it well, and things will happen. And I think that's really the summary of the advice that I'll give people: self-awareness, being humble, and just doing the best you can, and then hopefully you do what you like to do, and that's extremely important. I love this company, I love my job, I love my team, maybe I'm fortunate, but I keep telling my team that this is the best environment in my life, and hopefully it's going to continue to get better. That's
amazing, Alex. Thank you again for taking the time. But before I let you go, can you tell us where we can find more information about you? Obviously, Volvo Canada organization, or anything else you'd like to share?
Well, of course. We were present as a company. We're present on all the social channels, Instagram, Facebook. We're trying to make it better and grow. And, of course, you're welcome to visit us and, give us some feedback. We always look for feedback. On LinkedIn, we're trying to also be a little more active on LinkedIn. That video that I mentioned about our company and about our environment, you can find it on LinkedIn. We're still growing. We have open positions. I'll use this opportunity to tell our listeners, hey guys, come on in, take a look at the jobs. We are always welcoming, new talent into our organization. And personally, I am on LinkedIn. I'm not as active as I'd like to be on social, but I'm there. So feel free. Most people really connect with me on LinkedIn, and I am super easy. Like I don't discriminate. So I try to help when I can help.
Awesome. Alex, thank you again for taking your time to join us on the Business Leadership Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It was fun. Thank you.
That's it, Biz Leaders. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Business Leadership Podcast, episode number 90 with Alexander Lvovich. If you want to learn more about Alexander, Volvo Cars Canada, or anything else that we discussed, please go to thebusinessleadership.com/090. Our sponsors today are Pungo, a business payment solution that helps remove business payment friction by making payments fast, connected, and easy to use. The Business Leadership Podcast is a friend of the ITWC Podcast Network and supported by our media partner, IT World Canada. Please join me on my free private Facebook group called the Business Leadership Group, where I share daily insights, answer your questions, and connect you with other like-minded leaders. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to my podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, or wherever you're listening to your podcast today. Thank you again. Edwin signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Business Leadership Podcast at thebusinessleadership.com.